Welcome to the Family and Community Engagement April's Lunch and Learn. My name is Michelle Franklin, and I'm from the Family Engagement Department. I am the Family and Community Outreach Support. Our mission is to partner with students, family, and staff to support students' specialized academic, social, and emotional needs to promote self-determination, equitable opportunities, and authentic inclusion. If you need any information, we ask for you to click our link at ssdmo.org face. We have a few housekeeping rules for today's webinar. Today's webinar is a live recording, and your camera and microphone will be disabled. If you have any questions, we ask that you use the Q&A button on the screen. Chat messaging between participants has been limited to offer contact between the panelists and the host. And this webinar cannot be guaranteed any confidentiality in the environment, so we ask that you do not share any identifiable or specific information about your family or student in the chat or in the Q&A. If you require any additional assistance, please chat with the host. We are offering closed caption, and the recording of this webinar and all other prior recordings are uploaded within the week. I would like to share with you some past events and some upcoming events that are occurring in our Family and Community Engagement Department. We have a host of workshops that occurred. Our last one was on April 10th, and all of these can be found on our website at www.ssdmo.org/face, as well as lunch and learns that have previously been recorded. They can also be found. We are excited to be hosting our last Family Cafe, which will be held this upcoming Thursday, April the 27th, from 6 to 8 p.m. And that is located at the Family Resource Hub at North Tech High School at 1700 Darhickey Road in Florissant, Missouri. We hope to see you in our space. You can use the QR code to register. And we will have our last Hub Huddle with Castle on May the 12th. And I would like to amend the time. The time is from 9 to noon, but you're always welcome to come into the Family Resource Hub located in North Tech High School to complete applications or to seek additional support. At this moment, I would like to present our Lunch and Learn participant for today. Her name is Jessie Brown, and she's from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, better known as NAMI. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and give the screen over to Jessie Brown, who will provide us with some information from her organization. Jessie.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Michelle. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, spending a little bit of your time with us today. Like Michelle had mentioned, my name is Jessie, and I work at this place called NAMI St. Louis. And so I always like to start things off just by telling you a little bit about me, like who is this person? And so by trade, I'm a counselor. I went to school to be a counselor. It's part of what I do. It's part of who I am. It is not what I'm here for today. So I'm really going to take this like counselor hat off. And I just want to talk to you all today as just regular, everyday Jessie. So everyday Jessie, I'm an artist. I love to paint and color and draw. I have two of the cutest puppy dogs that y'all have ever seen in your whole entire lives. And I am also someone who lives with a mental health condition. So I live with 2 anxiety disorders, and I'm really passionate about spreading that awareness, changing misconceptions around mental health. And so that really kind of takes us into what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about mental health, some facts and statistics, warning signs, and how to help someone in your life that may be experiencing some of these, or maybe you yourself. So I know sometimes with these conversations, they can bring up big feelings, they can feel a little intense or uncomfortable. And so I want to really encourage each and every one of you to please take care of your time, or take care of yourselves during our time together today. If you need to step away, get a drink of water, whatever that might be, please take care of yourselves. All right. So mental health is something that we all have, just like we all have physical health. Sometimes it's healthy, it's in a really great place, and other times it can be not so healthy. So it's really important that we kind of switch our thinking around mental health to think about it in the same ways and treat it in the same ways we do for physical health. So if I had a broken arm, some of the things that y'all would tell me to do is go see a doctor. I might need to take medication. I need to rest that arm, stop moving it around. Right. And, hopefully, and I'm sure there would be some of you out there that would check on me and say, hey, are you okay? Can I help you? Right. Help me get back up. And so those same things go for mental health too. We may need to see a doctor or talk to a counselor. Maybe we need to take medicine. We definitely need to rest and take care of ourselves. And it would be super great to have that support system there to say, hey, I'm here. I've got you. What's going on? How can I help? So young people who feel well are going to do well. When a young person's mental health isn't in the healthiest of places, it can affect all aspects of their life, from their ability to complete their schoolwork and be successful at school, to their relationships with friends and family. So you can see from this slide why this conversation today is really important, why it's important that we're talking about mental health and really figuring out ways to take care of that. So studies tell us that 1 in 5 adults in the US experience a mental health condition in any given year, and 1 in 5 youth between the ages of 13 and 18 have experienced a mental health condition at some point in their lives, right? So what that number tells me is that it's very, very common, right? And that next statistic there, so nearly 60% of adults and 50% of youth who are experiencing some mental health challenges don't receive the treatment that they need and deserve. Right. And so there's a lot of reasons that can come with that. But the biggest reason is the stigma that surrounds mental health. Oftentimes, when I talk to young people, when we go into schools and do presentations, and we ask, why do you think people wouldn't ask for help? And it's, maybe they're embarrassed. They're afraid of what might happen. They're afraid of how people may think of them, treat them, what might happen next. So the good news in all of this is that with early intervention, getting connected to those resources, we can, manage these things. We can experience better outcomes for ourselves and for our young people too. And unfortunately, if we don't address these concerns, if we're not getting connected to those resources, it can have lifelong consequences for our young people, including dropping out of school, getting in trouble with the law, and even dying by suicide. So at this point, y'all have heard me say the words mental health condition a couple of times, and you'll hear me say them a few more times during our time together today. So mental health conditions, these are things like depression, bipolar, OCD, anxiety disorders, things like that. That's what I mean when I say mental health conditions. So it's important that, again, we look at these and we think about these in the ways we would physical health conditions, right? So someone who lives with asthma, they have to do very specific things to take care of that, right? Like using an inhaler, maybe staying away from things that could make that asthma worse. So the same goes for mental health conditions. We have to do very specific things to take care of those. Again, they're very, very common. There's a lot of us out there, and they are treatable. Right? Every mental health condition is a little bit different in the way it maybe presents or the symptoms that someone may experience, but they all have their own treatment plan that goes along with that too. So mental health conditions, what they are not that person's fault. So like I said, I am someone who lives with anxiety. It doesn't mean that there's anything bad or wrong about me. What it does mean is that my brain's a little bit different, right? I experience things in a different way, and that I've had some things that have happened to me. Right. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. And it's not limiting either. It's, we can still do and achieve amazing, wonderful things while also living with a mental health condition. So let's talk a little bit now about, what do we need to look out for? And how do we help? So the next couple of slides that we're going to look at, these are warning signs for mental health conditions. So How many of us have ever felt sad before? Right? I imagine lots of heads nodding, right? Some of you may be thinking, like, what a weird question to ask. Everyone feels sad sometimes, right? Because we do. We all experience some sadness at some point. We feel mad. We feel frustrated. We feel upset. We feel annoyed, right? We feel a lot of different feelings, and that's okay. Our feelings, they're not good, they're not bad, they just are. They're there to let us know that something's going on that we need to look at and pay attention to. So that feeling of sadness, right, isn't necessarily a warning sign, but what you would want to pay attention to is if that sadness isn't going away. Right. It's been more of than a couple of weeks. Or you find yourself or the young person that you care for, they're really isolating themselves. So they're not engaging in those activities that they love and enjoy and that bring them life. Sudden overwhelming fear for no reason. A lot of times this can come along with some physical symptoms. And this is referring to like a panic attack or an anxiety attack. It can come along with a fast heartbeat, really heavy breathing, shakiness, sweatiness, a lot of physical symptoms. And this is something that I would experience a lot with my own anxiety. I would be in class, right? Just sitting at my desk, nothing's really happening. But I would have these really intense waves of fear and panic, and I didn't know what or why. I just knew something was different and it felt really scary. Um, it can also show up as drastic changes in somebody's mood or behavior, right? So some little teeny tiny something happens, and now this person 0 to 60, and they're screaming, they're crying, they're yelling, and you're not really sure what happened and why are we getting the reaction we're getting to this little tiny thing that happened. Or someone who's sleeping way more than they usually do, or having a hard time falling asleep and staying asleep. And again, that's going on for a period of time. Having a really hard time focusing, concentrating, right? That's affecting their ability to function in the classroom or in relationships, or even might put them in physical danger because they're up in their brain thinking about all the things they've got to do or worrying about all these different things, thinking things through that we're not necessarily paying attention to what's going on around us. Those intense worries or fears that get in the way of doing our day-to-day things. So really, again, impairing that ability to function in those day-to-day ways, whether that is taking care of ourselves, again, being successful at school, completing those types of tasks, or in our relationships at home with friends and family. And then those last three there, these are things that are known as negative coping skills. So these are things that sometimes young people and adults too may engage in to shut off those distressing thoughts, numb those really intense feelings, kind of stop that because it all feels like it's too much, right? And I'm just trying to deal with it. I'm trying to keep going and get through it. And I just don't want to feel this anymore. I don't want to think about this anymore. But these are incredibly unhealthy ways to cope. There are much healthier ways to cope, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a bit. Okay, so if you're noticing any of those warning signs for a young person that you care for or care about, these are kind of the steps to take in that. We want to make sure, when we're reaching out, we're starting this conversation with them, that we're sharing specific concerning behaviors that you've observed, right? I've noticed this. And this is how long it's been going on for. And I've noticed that, these things are happening as a result. Letting them know what is going on. And expressing your concerns and trying to stay calm in that conversation. Because if you're calm and you're regulating your emotions, then you can help somebody else feel calm too, right? Or if there's someone who, is having a really tough time and maybe they're yelling and they're shouting, they're just having a hard time sitting still. If you stay calm and you stay that calm body language, calm voice, it's going to help bring that down for them as well. So when we're having this conversation, listening, making sure that we're staying in that present moment with them. I know sometimes with these important conversations, we can start thinking about like crafting the perfect response as this person is talking. So really fight that urge to do that. Try to stay in the moment with the person, making sure that you're asking clarifying questions, that you fully understand what they're having to say as much as possible. And then offering that help, letting them know like, hey, I love you. I care about you. I want to help you with what is going on in whatever way I can. So let's figure out some ways to do that. I do want to say, if you're noticing some of those unhealthy behaviors, especially when it comes to, thoughts of wanting to hurt themselves, please make sure you're taking that to the next level. You're talking to your school's mental health professional. You're reaching out to lines like 988, those 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis lines, which will have some of that at the end, that information for local and national resources for y'all, if you feel like it needs to go to the next level or there's some like safety issues involved. So, we talked a little bit about like what to say, how to start that conversation, how to keep it going. So these are some things to try to stay away from when we're having this conversation with those young people that we care about and care for. So again, it's really important that we're showing that we're listening, that we hear them, because this is how we're going to validate their situation and show them that we care. Right. So please keep in mind, yes, we want to kind of avoid some of these things, especially those things that like those one-word answers or saying things in a way that make it seem like, well, I know you want me to say no to that, right? Like, oh, well, you haven't been feeling really sad lately, have you? Right. That to me makes me feel like, okay, you want me to say no. So I'm going to say no, right? So kind of opening it up, those open-ended questions, use those, be really careful that we're not making promises that we can't keep. And then keep in mind too, it's a balance, right? We can't avoid all triggers. Everyone's mental health is individual. We all experience things in individual ways. But it is, just some things to try to avoid, and that's that all or nothing talk. Kind of talking in extremes can cause additional stress. Some of that toxic positivity too. Unfortunately, life isn't, all rainbows and butterflies. And so, sometimes it's not always the most helpful to be told to just think positively, right? And that could definitely help, absolutely. But sometimes we just need to like vent it out and say, this is what's happening to me. And getting a response that's like, wow, that seems really hard. Or wow, I'm really sorry that you're going through that. That can make the difference right there. Just that little, moment of knowing that you're not alone in this. This person is hearing, this person sees what I'm going through, and they're here with me, right? They're not trying to just fix it. But again, it's a balance, right? We do want some positivity in there, but not just so much that we're not hearing the person or we're not invalidating their experience. And then if you're noticing some negative self-talk, we want to try to reframe some of that. Talk about ourselves in more positive ways, showing ourselves some of that self-compassion, treating ourselves, talking about the other person as we would, someone, our very best friend, right? Supporting them in those same kinds of ways makes such a difference. All right. So if we're, noticing some of those things, we definitely want to utilize our coping skills, but coping skills are for everything and everyone, right? This is one of those things, using these coping skills, engaging in healthy self-care. These are one of the biggest ways to help us take care of our mental health and keep it in a healthy place. So anything can be a coping skill. We just want it to be something that is healthy, so it doesn't hurt you or someone else. And then we also want it to be something that just helps us feel a little bit stressed out. Right. So engaging in our coping skills helps us build resiliency, and resiliency is that capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. Right. So we've got some ideas here for coping skills on this slide. These are all wonderful coping skills. At the beginning, I told you one of my favorite coping skills, which is creativity, drawing, coloring, painting, all of that. I am someone who always has paper and pen with me. Because I never know when I might feel anxious or feel stressed out. And I just need to start taking care of that in the moment so it doesn't build to something that feels overwhelming or too much. So the important thing to start with coping skills when we're having these conversations with young people that we care for, care about, and ourselves is to just start with what you know, right? What are those things that are out there that you love and that give you life, right? What helps you feel less stressed out? What calms your brain? What calms your body, right? All right, very good. And then really quickly, want to just touch on some different treatment options that are out there when it comes to mental health and mental health conditions. So there's psychotherapy, which is just a fancy way to say you talk to a counselor. There is lots and lots of different types of counseling out there, different types of therapy. So make sure you find what fits for you, right? Because there's talk therapy, there's art therapy, there's music therapy, there's pet therapy, right? There's a place not too far, I think it's a little bit south of St. Louis, that does cow hug therapy, right? So there's lots of different types out there. Find what works for you. Same for that counselor. Find someone that you feel comfortable with, that you feel is listening and seeing and understanding and asking all the questions that you need to have asked. And if that first person, it's not a good fit, that's okay, right? Just ask to see somebody else. Keep going until you find who you feel comfortable with, you need. There's also medication. Medication is for some, it is not for everyone. So if you feel like medication may be something that might be helpful, it's really important that you talk to your doctor, your mental health professional, your counselor, your social worker, whoever that might be. Talk with them about that. They can get that all set up and get you set up with the right treatments for what you may be experiencing. And then those alternative approaches. So these are things like acupuncture, light therapy, meditation, faith, nutrition, all of that, right? So making sure we're really looking at, and this is something that NAMI as a whole kind of shows a lot of importance with, is looking at ourselves as a holistic person, because our physical health can impact our mental health and vice versa. So looking at ourselves as a physical being, our brains, our mental state, our emotional state, and our spirit too. So how are we feeding our spirit? How are we living our best lives with that? All right, so really quickly, I want to run through just some information about NAMI St. Louis and how we're here to support. So at NAMI St. Louis, we have different programs. We have support groups. So our connection support group is for adults living with a mental health condition. We have a couple of specialized groups in that. We have a group that's called the Connect Hour, and this is for Black and African American men between the ages of 18 and 30. We also have a group for folks in the LGBTQIA+ community. And then we have our family support group. And so this is for family members, parents, caregivers of someone living with a mental health condition or having some challenges with their mental health. All of our support groups are offered virtually and in person. So we have options depending on what you would like. And those in-person groups are happening throughout the St. Louis region. And we also offer educational classes, seminars. So our family to family class is an 8-week-long course where you can come to learn about mental health, common treatments, common mental health conditions, ways to prepare for a crisis, ways to support your loved one, and also ways to take care of yourself in the midst of supporting that person that you love and care about and care for. And then we have a peer-to-peer course. And so this is for those adults, again, living with a mental health condition, where they can come to learn about mental health, how to take care of themselves, how to plan for that crisis, and how to really, talk about and seek that treatment that they may need and advocate for themselves in that way too. So there are a couple of things that set NAMI apart from other organizations. The first is that everything that we do is completely free of charge. We don't ever charge anyone for anything. We don't accept insurance. We don't do any of that. The second is that everything that we do is peer-led. So it's being led by people living with mental health conditions themselves or those friends and family members of that person. So that's why I'm always making a point in my presentations to say that I'm taking my counselor hat off, right? Because I'm just here to talk from that peer perspective. That's what we do here at NAMI. And so if you or anyone who may be interested in spreading awareness, advocating for others, providing some of that support or education, we have lots and lots of volunteer opportunities available. So please reach out. Our website is namistl.org. And then these next couple of slides are just some information on local resources here in the St. Louis region. So we've got our NAMI St. Louis helpline that you can call to find out more about what we do, or if you're looking for a certain type of a resource in the community, we can absolutely help with that. Behavioral health response, that's a 24/7 crisis line for the St. Louis region. So, and then our St. Louis Queer Plus support helpline, again, for folks in that LGBTQIA+ community. This is a peer support line for them. And then the SSM behavioral urgent care. So this is like a physical health urgent care, just specifically for mental and behavioral health. And then our national resources. So 988, right? This is the national crisis line. You can also still dial that 1-800 number. That will still get you to the place. But 988, I believe, started this last summer where they went to the 3 digits. So make it a little bit easier for folks to be able to access get access to that. And then NAMI National has a helpline, which again is one of those peer support helplines where you can talk to somebody who is living with a mental health condition or is a family member, kind of gets what you may be going through. And then there's also the crisis text line. So this is something that if you're someone who, like me, you're not a fan of talking on the phone, or maybe you're not in a place where you can talk on the phone, but you really need some support, you need someone to talk to, the crisis text line is a great place for that. And again, it's 24/7, anytime, any day. All right, so that wraps up my little portion here. So if you'd like more information, again, please reach out to us on our helpline. We're happy to talk further about any of the NAMI programs that we have to offer, help out with resources, or answer any questions that you may have. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Jessie, for all of that wonderful information. You provided some best practices for individuals during a crisis situation and some self-care tips. And it was very, very informative. Right now, I want to see if we have any questions in the Q&A. I see there is one. We don't have any questions. I don't see any questions, so we will move forward. Before I end today's session, I would like to highlight that I would like to invite anyone to our next Lunch and Learn session, which is on May the 24th. It will feature the Family and Community Engagement Department. We will be providing information about summer fun, and we look forward to all participants to come out and just share in learning with us. You can always reach out to us for support at face@ssdmo.org, or you can call us at 314-989-8460. We would like to always get feedback about today's session. And if you would like to use our QR code, it's located right here to the right of the screen. And Jessie, did you have a link or anything that you wanted to provide in the chat?
I think we'll just use the QR code. That'll be perfect.
Okay.
Thank you for checking now.
Okay, thank you. And we thank you for attending today's webinar. Again, my name is Michelle Franklin. I'm a part of the Family and Community Engagement Department, and we appreciate your attendance for today. Thank you.